Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
We're going to talk about something today that everybody, all of us can relate to in one way or another. And it's about relationships, but more specifically, and even more importantly, staying connected during relationships, even long-term relationships. And she's somebody that can help you along that pathway. She is Allison Cowan. She's a life coach with Purposeful Pathways Life Coaching, and she's back with us. Allison, welcome. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Always happy to be here, Steve, and always look forward to our interaction and what comes up for us.
Same thing here. And it's the things that we talk about are truly very relatable. And when it comes to relationships, it's you have to keep it connected. And even if it's not a romantic relationship, even friendships, if you just kind of let them go, sometimes if you're really close back in the day and you rekindle that relationship, it's almost as if time never went by. But then there's other ones where things have shifted. Sometimes there's animosity because you didn't stay in touch. Maybe that goes both ways, but certainly in partnerships, marriages, after years go by, sometimes you realize that you don't feel like you're connected, and then I like to say you're just phoning it in. You're just kind of just doing life, but are you really doing life? Are you really
you're doing life, but are you doing relationships?
Mm.
And
are you doing life the way it could be?
Yeah, and so we're doing life and neglecting the relationship, thinking that the relationship will just take care of itself instead of actually putting some effort, and the effort needs to happen in order for connection and growth to continue.
Where do you think it goes wrong? Is it communication? Is it effort? It's not to say, let's assume that both people in the relationship do care about each other. Mm-hmm. Maybe that changes along the way. Maybe it takes a different shape. But where do you think the derail happens typically?
I always go back to communication. Because without the communication, all of the other things within a relationship are not getting addressed.
Yeah. And I think that communication starts breaking down when the appreciation starts breaking down, and things like that. Because then it's almost as, you have an injury and then you have the callus over it or the scar. And then it's just, now you got to break through that to get to, the real thing. But if you don't continue to show appreciation, sometimes negative feelings come up, and then there's less communication, and then there's a problem with the relationship, and then it just keeps continuing like that.
Yeah. And accepting and appreciating each other, showing empathy, really being present and listening when you're having a conversation, respect, gratitude, and those are part of appreciation. Did I say thank you? Or did I compliment my partner on something that was like either done well on his end or her end, and and then celebrating that with joy. And we sometimes forget to do that because we're wrapped up doing life, like we talked about.
Yep. Yeah. It's unfortunate. Once that starts going away, it's way more work to get it back. It takes even more effort. Not that it's not worth it, but along the way, you should never let that go. In terms of, and gratitude, same thing, appreciation. Just even at the littlest thing. Wow, this tastes really good tonight. I don't know how you did it, but it did. That came out great. Or even compliments. You change your hair. Notice it. You may notice it, but say something about it. or
Yeah.
whatever it might be, new shoes, new jeans, whatever.
Yeah.
The other person, you know them, so you know what motivates them. Don't get out of the habit of doing that, because once you do, it's again the callus forms, the scar
Yeah.
form.
And in the beginning of a relationship, um, things are shiny and new, and you're just like enamored, and all of these things. You want to talk, you want to um, figure things out, you want to spend time together, and you know communicate and do things together, and whatever it might be. Yet long-term relationships have the capability of depth and richness. So even though there's going to be ups and downs, there's going to be conflict. How are you managing that conflict? And, recognizing like what triggers you, and what are personal defense mechanisms that kind of keep you from um, that conflict from being resolved.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're right. Of course, it's shiny and new, and you think, how is that going to go in the future? Is it always going to be like this? What will it be like? Will I always feel that way down the road? No one can tell for sure, but I can say that everybody has a different love language.
Right.
So you either need to accept it or move on, and everybody's different. And once you identify what you need and want, maybe that makes it more challenging because now I'm accepting this or not, or you're going to bend a little bit. I'm personally somebody where I'm mushy. I'll express my feelings. I put it out there. I'd like to get something back from that in the same way. Not always going to get it. You need to accept that. Maybe the person is thinking it, maybe they show it in a different way. You need to identify what that way is, and interpret it as what it is. Maybe they're saying the same thing to you in a different way. But everybody has a different love language.
Right. And then also, that kind of spurred a thought where just because I'm maybe expressing gratitude, or, you know, saying something kind, like we've been talking about, and I don't get something immediately back, then was I really giving from my heart, or was I just being a bit selfish and wanting something in return?
That's a tough one. Good luck with that one.
Well, but then,
How do you figure that one out? I agree with you 100%. I agree.
then you have a conversation. Is this a good time to talk?
Mm,
Um, and express
mm.
where you have needs. And you know, can we, how can we can you help me
Mm.
in my area of needs as well?
The one thing I have learned in my journey is just be yourself, be authentic, and let everything fall in place around you. And if it doesn't, then it doesn't really support you. Like, I'm not going to do something or tell somebody something just because I want something back. I'm going to do it because I feel it.
Mhm.
And if I'm not getting it back, then all right, time to reevaluate and see where we are with that.
And then recognizing if something is working or if something needs to be changed.
Mm.
And sometimes that growth to change a little bit so that you can meet each other, um, can take a little work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And is it important enough to commit to that?
So we say that everybody has a different way of showing it. So hypothetically, could be a guy and a girl in a relationship, marriage, right? The guy may not always say that he cares and loves and all of that and is mushy. Again, hypothetical. He may think that doing things for his family or for his spouse around the house, taking care of this, um, renovating a backyard because he wants everybody to be happy, all of that. He may think that that is his way, or not think that is his way of showing how he cares, but it might not be perceived on the other side. And that person, spouse, may be looking for other things, but then he's not getting it. Well, look what I just did for you. Don't you understand? I'm doing it because I love you and I care about you. But the spouse may be just wait. I just want you to leave a post-it note on the bathroom mirror, or something like that.
And that's where appreciation. So it goes back to that. We talked a little bit about appreciation, and it may not have been exactly what you were wishing for, but wow, I really appreciate that you created this gazebo in the backyard so that we can sit outside on a summer day and enjoy the sunset.
Right.
So really, and that's where that effort comes in, and recognition and acceptance and appreciation, because, they're doing it for both, like the person may be doing it for both of them. So for them to be together.
Yeah. It's again, it comes back to language and understanding, going back and forth. How about some other ways to stay connected? Some other thoughts? What do you think?
Making sure that time together is a priority. And it may not be always on your time or the other person's time. The other person may be very tired, had a rough day, and isn't up for a deep conversation. So, when is a good time? And sometimes it means scheduling a little bit of time. Okay, I'm going to stop working at 2:00 on Saturday, and have our time at that point. And so, it's kind of working around, and and then that again goes back to that acceptance of, they just may, the other, or maybe it's me, I may not be up for you know emotional intimacy conversations, and because I've just was burned out through the day. And it's like, I would really like to talk to you about this. And one of the things that, so interestingly, being able to bring something back. My husband and I were going through a little bit of a rocky period, and we chose to recommit. And it's not about making promises, because promises can be broken. Commitments can also be broken, but when you're committed, there's a reason and a desire to keep moving forward. And one of the things that we started doing was next to, so it's on his side of the bed, the nightstand, and there's a notebook and 2 different colored pens. And if there's something that, I'm thinking about or would like to express, I just write it down in the notebook. And then, whenever he gets back to it, he writes back in the notebook. And it's been really a lovely thing.
You didn't even have to say that last part because I already saw it and already got it. And beats the crap out of using this because now it's personal and you almost can't wait to see what's in the book.
And then you have the opportunity to go back and remember all of these things.
Do you put the date too, just as a reference? Might want it if not.
I think I sometimes I do, and sometimes I have. Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be every time, but again, only because if you wanted to look back, you could see it.
Right. Right. And it's a no pressure, thing. So if I write something and I don't get a response for 3 days, no pressure. If something is written to me and I don't see it or respond, no pressure. Just let it flow.
That's a great idea. Little challenging though, because if like 3 days go by, it's like, yeah, but you gotta be open to it.
Right. And again, hey, I'm just curious. I'd like to hear back. So it doesn't mean you can't ask for something.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. See, I love that idea. I wish I did it. I didn't think I needed to in my situation. Married, decade and a half, 2 kids. We told everybody date night. Got to go on date night at least twice a month. Date night. Got to go on date night, and we did. And we'd hang out with friends, and we, have fun. And even uh, she took me away on my birthday. Had a great time with other friends. And then not even a month later, I get a text and she says, I went to go see an attorney. I'm like, what? It came out of nowhere. So if I knew, and like you say, there's no guarantee of the future and never even knew. Great mom, great wife. Can't say that right now because things change, people change, and then you see, things that you didn't realize. But if I knew I needed to do that, and I guess the lesson here is just do it anyway, even if you don't think you need to do it.
What were the expectations of date night? Was date night, you have, especially with children, was date night a time, a ritual that you created where you can reconnect?
Yeah, that was the point.
When there's other friends in the picture, not that you
I got you. Yeah, no, it was with and without.
Okay.
So it could be just, hey, let's go grab dinner. Let's go to a brewery. And then other times it could be with friends. It wasn't always where there wasn't total one-on-one because there's, you got to hang with others and all that.
Oh yeah. And there's nothing wrong with either one. I just was,
yeah, sure. No, I got you.
My curiosity.
It was a mix, and honestly, like every night we watched TV together on the couch. As soon as the kids went to bed, 9 o'clock, 8:30, whatever. What do you want to watch tonight? And people change. You don't know. Sometimes you don't know. Maybe there were some signs along the way at the end there, but not enough to say, got a problem here. Got to call Allison.
Well, and last week we talked about the friendship, how important it is to keep the friendship strong and nurturing the friendship. And nurturing the affection, nurturing the attention, it's nurturing. A lot of nurturing has to go in.
Yeah.
And does it mean that it's always going to be, is conflict going to arise? Absolutely. But just deciding when a conflict arises, this is how we're going to have almost like a pre-plan that when emotions are heightened, there's a plan in place with how to, this is what we agreed, and it may work and it may need to change, adapt over time.
Yeah. Or expectations. Let's say things kick up, there's an issue. Always know that, again, this is hypothetical. Always know that, all right, we're going to get together after the kids go to bed, or whatever, 8 o'clock tonight. We're gonna talk and kind of figure this all out, whatever it might be. So you know that that's what's going to happen. And again, sometimes uh, busy day, tired, not in a frame of mind to focus. There has to be some flexibility, but I think it's also managing expectations. What you expect from the other person, good and bad.
Right, right.
You
And
know,
sometimes we expect something without expressing
yeah,
what we would want and what we need. And the other person is not a mind reader.
yeah.
So when we have expectations and wants and needs that would like to be met, the other person cannot read our minds.
Well, I wish I could have read my ex's mind, because then I would have known. So it's all
And
about
that's why we have
communication
to
too.
ask the questions. That's why we have
Yeah,
to ask the questions.
sure.
Uh, Um, and then even with conversations, there are some lovely, I mean, they can be found online anywhere, where they're somewhat open-ended questions on a bunch of different topics. And, you end up learning more about each other just because of a question that has never come up, that you
Hmm.
should be asking. If you were in, I don't know, well, there's always the if you're on a desert island, what 5 things would you take with you? That's the one that everybody uses, but there's like a bunch of others. And then sometimes going back and asking that same question a year later, because it may be totally different.
Well, in the couple of minutes we have left, that's an interesting point, because people change. And it's been said, and I think this is through studies and research, that we reevaluate our lives every 5 years. And some would say definitely every 9 years. So if you look at it that way, and sometimes you have a totally different view on what you want out of life. Um,
And that's where that communication,
yeah,
as I'm reevaluating and I'm growing, and your partner's reevaluating and they're growing, having that time together to talk about, I've been thinking about this.
hmm,
And just, being able to feel safe to bring that up, and then staying open to what the other person's answer is.
yeah, and feeling that support come from the other person. No matter what it is. Well, even if you just, have an idea of, like we said, I'm going to put a gazebo in the backyard. What do you think? If you feel supported, or if I'm going to change my job position, or I have an idea for a business or whatever, feeling that support um, goes a long way. Goes a long way. And those are just some things, but it's got to be with everything, within the relationship. Um,
Yeah.
I love the book idea, because
Oh,
it's a good one.
and then just always going, it's sometimes just fun to go back and remember why you fell in love with each other in the first place,
Hmm. Yeah,
because it kind of brings a little bit of that freshness back.
true.
And um and yes, a person may say, well, this, that, and the other thing, but you've changed. Well, that's okay. There's a great conversation. um if I changed for the good, or for better, or for worse, and how is it affecting our relationship, and what can we do to make this better?
Sure, sure. And the other thing that comes into play is past issues and traumas that you might not have realized in yourself, and also the other person.
Huge. That is huge, and that needs to be, yeah. And that was one that I wasn't like, I had kind of taken some notes here on what to talk about. And that was one that I did think about bringing up.
Yeah.
So that you have an understanding about where a person may be coming from. And yeah, that's really, I think it's important to know that.
I think that's a big one. And to be mindful of it, because just like you said, the relationship starts, everything's great, shiny and new, having a great time. You don't want to start thinking of those things, but you need to. In my journey and experience, you need to look at them because they can give you clues to the future. Not that it's, maybe not, but at least you're mindful and aware of it along the way. And you can help that person with those things because that could be part of their love language too. They went through something and it could have been minimal, but it could be something big in their mind. But just the clues are there. The clues are there. If
You have to stay aware.
you have to stay aware. Yep. Yeah. It's almost as if when you're driving and you get somewhere and you're like, how the heck did I get here? You were still driving. Were you totally aware of your driving?
Yeah, you were on automatic pilot.
Yeah, automatic pilot. And that's, could be a recipe for disaster in many ways. They say it's your subconscious taking over and you're going to be totally fine, but who knows? You don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes we need to take ourselves out of automatic pilot.
Yeah.
In relationships. It's like, okay, here's the, same thing, Groundhog Day. Well,
Yeah.
let's change things up a little bit. Let's get creative, get curious.
And it's tough when you put all the things in the mix, a job or jobs, kids, responsibilities, doing the lawn, all of that, housework. When you put it all in, then it kind of turns into that potentially the rinse and repeat. Just do it again tomorrow. Do it again tomorrow. Do it again tomorrow. Yeah, it's being mindful. I totally agree. Yeah, interesting points that we brought up here today for sure.
Shake it up a little bit. Get creative. Figure something out.
We always talk in songs, so shake it up. The Cars from 1986.
Shake it up.
There you go. It's like I don't think there's any song that I can say that you don't know. Like
I'm sure there are.
So quick diversion, but I had this debate with some friends over the weekend. There's a guy on TikTok and he'll play it, one note from a song, and you got to guess what the song is. And it frustrates me because it's not I know you have a music background. It's not a full note. And he's like, 80s song. Can you name this in one note? Level 2, meaning it's a harder song to guess. But a note is a full note. He'll just go, beep. Oh, no, it should be meow. That's the note.
Right.
Like, come on, it.
There was this is aging me, but there used to be a television show named That Tune. I loved that show. I can name that tune in 5 notes.
Right, exactly. You know what? That came up in our conversation over the weekend, and these are friends that I all grew up with. Who hosted that show?
I don't remember.
I gotta Google that. Yeah, because I can't remember either. None of us could. I do know on this show we're out of time. So
we are. I know we don't want to get in trouble.
I want to share website is purposefulpathwayslifecoaching.com. And you're available if somebody's looking to stay connected in their relationship. Even just great ideas like we just you shared today. There's a lot of stuff you can do to rekindle it and shake it up. And you've got them there. So for that, I thank you, Allison.
Thank you so much, Steve. Always a pleasure. And I am offering a spring special. So get in touch. You don't want to miss out. There's only several spots. So
I'm not going to invoke fear, but your relationship or marriage may depend on it. Just going to leave it with that. I'm just saying it's some of these things can be very important, and unless somebody points them out to you or just the ideas. I love ideas, like little fun, little romantic ideas. Fantastic. Even the one you shared is like some 4-star. That's like one of the best ever. All right. We'll catch up next time. Thanks a lot.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.